Welcome to Let's Talk Security, where we spotlight cybersecurity companies and give an inside look at the people and technology behind the latest advancements in the industry. We discuss a wide range of topics with subject matter experts about today's cybersecurity challenges and how their solutions are helping organizations like yours maintain a continuous security posture. Please welcome the host of Let's Talk Security, Jeff Wolach.
Today on Let's Talk Security, I will be speaking with the company Infoblox. I'm here with Jim Zelnosky, Channel Sales Engineer. Thank you for joining me today, Jim.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you taking some time out of the day to talk to us. I have a list of questions, actually, I want to just kind of go through if you don't mind, so I'll just start asking away. Jim, tell us about Infoblox and your role as the Channel Sales Engineer.
Sure, Jeff. Infoblox is a 20-year plus company that started out building DNS servers, DHCP servers, and wrapping that with an IP address management database for enterprise companies that wanted to get the control and visibility within that control plane for providing connectivity within their data center. My role as a channel sales engineer is to support you, Jeff, the channel, and making sure that you fully understand what the value proposition for your customers are of our product and the solutions.
No, I appreciate your support, Jim. You've been doing a great job for us. So tell us, how long have you been at Infoblox?
Well, I've been here an awful long time. I look back on it's 10 years now that
Wow.
I've been at Infoblox. And I'm here because it's great people and a great product that works. And it's a lot of our customers say you put it in and you forget about it sometimes. It just keeps on working. Before that, I was with Ruben Networks for about 7 years. And then before that, I was with Cisco for quite a long time. So I've been in the business a long time, Jeff.
Excellent. No, and obviously you've been at Infoblox a while. So you've had the opportunity to kind of see the product advance over the years. Tell us a little bit about the advancements and what Infoblox is doing to continue maintaining its industry leadership position.
Sure, Jeff. When Infoblox started, we built servers, and then as we saw customers moving to more virtualization, we virtualize our software. We're pretty much a software company now. We do offer hardware for customers that want to run our software on one system, so it's easier to troubleshoot and possibly RMA when there is a possible problem. But it does run on all types of virtualization systems, and that's one of the advancements that we made. But we're also seeing a huge change within the marketplace. We're seeing a changing paradigm where customers now, where they used to have everything within a data center, are now moving to a cloud environment for, communications to applications such as Office 365 and Salesforce and other types of applications. We're also seeing a huge change in the network infrastructure where everything would be within a data center or come from VPNs in a data center and then go out one or two egress points into the internet with heavy firewalls and DLPs and security systems. We're now seeing that kind of dissipate more into a direct connection through software-defined networks where customers are directly connecting to DLS or cable system connections from their home or branch offices. And this is really creating a huge shift in security. And the last thing that we're seeing is huge changes in the amount of IP devices. A person like myself and you, we have maybe 4 or 5 IP devices. And with that, we're also seeing enterprises that are seeing everything from doorbells to thermostat systems that all are adding an immense amount of load as far as these IP address systems and trying to maintain and secure those things. So as Infoblox, we've created a a solution that is software based that can run in cloud environments such as Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud, along with private clouds like OpenStack and VMware. So it's kind of like a mix and match where we're starting to see those environments change. So we're staying, as the market changes, we're staying in step with what our customers are looking for.
Yeah, no, you guys have a pretty significant lead out there. I think at one time I heard that Infoblox has probably one of the largest leads in their industry space than any other company out there. And you talk about, IoT, the Internet of Things, the smart devices, things of that nature that people are not only putting in their homes, but they're also bringing those into the corporate environments. I think I was telling you earlier, I've had the benefit of obviously running the Infoblox products in my lab here in my house. And it's amazing how when I look at my, IP address management dashboard, it shows about 190, IP addresses. And that's just in a house of 2 people. And then the amount of Internet of Things devices, you just wouldn't believe what I have here. But I have a significant amount of, products from Amazon, Google, as we know, and other, smart devices. And so it's amazing, how those IP addresses can actually just start growing into a network. And cloud adoption, you talked a little bit about that. And we're seeing that there's been a pretty big growth spurt this year in cloud adoption due to COVID. And companies are discovering that, mixing and matching cloud services to address their business needs is pretty essential. Can you explain a little bit why the core network services like DDI are very important when it comes to security in the cloud?
Yes. So the movement to multi-cloud environment has created an area where customers are trying to get their arms around all these IP addresses and what they're doing. And DNS actually can tell you a lot about the behavior of what they're doing. So we have like a saying you can't manage what you can't see, and you can't secure what you can't see. So Infoblox is creating a solution where our core network services, that control plane of the IP address management and the DNS behavior, is something that we want to provide high visibility into a multi-cloud environment.
So that's interesting. You're right. I mean, I came from a background of, network visibility, right? Being able to look inside the communications with some type of protocol analyzer, because as you mentioned, it's hard to protect, or it's hard to understand what you can't see. So that's very important. And, maintaining that within the security architecture and infrastructure is very important. How about security when it comes to DNS, and what are the risks involved with DNS security?
Yeah, so DNS was never designed to be a secure protocol. As you know, it's now become the lifeblood of the internet, and actually for everything we pretty much do in life, and specifically in this pandemic situation, we're relying a lot on what DNS does to make our lives easier in the area of connecting to the services and the applications that we need. It is the phone book of the internet. And then if you think of it from that construct, IP addresses are just like phone numbers. We don't remember everybody's phone number. We remember their name. So DNS names were the way that everything runs now. So that resolution to convert an IP address based on the names to get it back to the host is what's so important. And the issue is that it's a one-way protocol. So it doesn't require security. There's no type of encryption, no validation per se. I mean, there was a standard called DNSSEC that kind of came about that some organizations, finance, government use, but in general, it's not adopted worldwide to know you can trust the connection that you're making with DNS. And that's one of the reasons why it's become a security risk, because anybody can set up a DNS server. Anybody can register a DNS name with a register. And now it's a UDP protocol connection that just one way allows, once you do a phishing exercise on a client or a user, you now are allowing them to connect directly to that domain name, which you set up as a bad actor. And now what they can do is they can create within the protocol itself commands and responses that go back and forth, so that you now have a highway within the organization that gets through firewalls, because there's thousands and thousands of DNS queries that go on. As like I told you a while back, an iPhone, for example, has, when you fire it up, does about 19 plus DNS queries immediately. So if you imagine the amount of DNS queries, and if you're a SecOps team, you're trying to get your arms around all these DNS queries coming from all these devices and Internet of Things devices included, and you're trying to figure out if they're all good and which ones might be a problem. And this is really the issue that enterprises are facing today, is that there's bad actors hiding within those DNS queries, and they are getting through, and they are creating command and control communication paths to infected hosts.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's obviously one protocol that you really cannot block in a network, because, if you can't resolve a DNS name to an IP address, you're not going to be able to go anywhere. So the bad part is that it has to stay open. The bad part is that people know that it's open, and therefore they're going to exploit it. And again, some of the risks that, you and I have talked about in the past also is, not only like DNS poisoning, but also DNS tunneling, exfiltration. And again, it's something that people don't realize might be happening in their network, because DNS is pretty much not a protocol that, organizations monitor on a regular basis.
That's true, Jeff. One of the things that we like to provide to our customers and to you, the partner, are tools that customers can use to test to see if their network is secure against DNS tunneling. And obviously, you're aware of that tool. You can provide that tool to your customers so that they can go through that exercise. And in most cases, it can get through a lot of networks.
Right. I mean, again, we've run some of those exfiltration tests and demos for our customers, and it's amazing about what they haven't realized is maybe leaking out of their network potentially through DNS, or can leak out of the network through DNS, because again, it's a protocol that typically you don't block. And so, how's Infoblox addressing these risks and attack vectors that people are basically using DNS for?
Yeah, so I guess there's an old saying: there's not a silver bullet solution that's going to kill this vampire. What we have is kind of what most customers also are dealing with, a defensive depth strategy. There's a number of ways that you can address DNS security. And because we build software that's DNS servers, and the queries run through our servers, we've employed a few specific techniques to try to catch those queries when they first start. One of the ways that we do that is through reputational lists of bad domains. And we have a threat intel team in Tacoma, Washington, that started out providing domain blocking for Microsoft, and we still are doing that. and kind of graduated to providing government grade threat intel for the federal government. So we do a lot of that for the civilian agencies out there, and we extend that to our customers as a way of blocking bad domains. So we allow lists to be downloaded into the DNS servers within the enterprise, and that's one way that we can stop a bad domain from being connected to. The other way that we do is we see signatures. We can see tunnel signatures specific, like DNS Messenger, a number of other ones, and probably the most advanced thing that Infoblox has made over the last few years is trying to detect a 0-day attack, meaning we don't have a specific signature. It's not a known domain that's bad. So how can we stop that when all of a sudden it pops up on the network? And that's usually related to things like data exfiltration. So we have what we call advanced analytics that are built in to our DNS servers that we call our Threat Insight product that catches those changes that are going on in the DNS protocol, where we begin to see through analytics behavior that should not normally be for a query between a host and where it's connecting to in the internet, and we can then block those. Well, all this also is available in a new cloud product we've had now on the market for a couple of years, and this allows connectivity from anywhere. So where we have our in the data center, we have that security solution within our DNS servers. We also extend that out to our cloud system where anybody connect to it. So now in this pandemic situation, we're all kind of working from home. We can have clients that run on Macs or Windows machines that will encrypt and force the DNS queries to the cloud and be checked against all those defense in depth methods that I just described. And then the last thing that we really have done is we realized that customers are trying to create forms of automation, and they like to know that they don't have to look at a console from Infoblox to see that there was a domain that was blocked. So we have a what we call a ecosystem integration where we can send notifications, everything from a discovered IP. So we can tell you if an IP is not administered, and it could be a possible rogue AP on a network that you can block, or we can notify firewalls and NAC products and SOAR security orchestration automation remediation systems with notifications that we are blocking a DNS domain, and that they can take remediation action to try to solve that particular incident of compromise.
That's definitely something that, you guys have a whole bunch of data around, IP addresses and places that people are wanting to go based around the DNS queries that you can definitely share with these other solutions to help, prevent these type of threats. And what your ecosystem, give us a little bit of an example of what some of the vendors out there that you guys integrate with.
Yeah, so like with Palo Alto firewalls, for example, if we have a specific IP address of a domain that we blocked, we can send an unsolicited what we call API message to that firewall, and it could do a block, like deny all to that IP address. Or let's say if we have a new IP address that comes on a network and we administer it, we could send that same message, and it could go into a policy that says allow all. So we can allow firewall systems such as Palo Alto to be able to know when to block and when not to block IP devices based on administration. And then also when there's a DNS domain network, we've discovered.
And how about, oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and others types of systems, we have some customers that are invested heavily in Cisco ICE. So we have a two-way conversation with Cisco to be able to understand their wireless network and then put that into our database. And then we also notify them on these type of things so that they can quarantine, let's say, a device off the network.
No, very cool. And you mentioned that you guys also work with SOAR platforms as well. What are some of the SOAR products that you guys work with today?
Well, pretty much the popular ones. Palo Alto's product that they acquired and are advancing with from Demisto, Proofpoint, Swimlane, and Splunk acquired Phantom. So those are some of the SOAR products that we're seeing, because that market is growing immensely. Customers are, as you know, are experiencing staff shortages in security. They don't have enough people to go around. They have too many security consoles with too many indicators going off. They need to have some forms of automation to try to filter those things down and get that visibility they need into the critical ones to try to work them off the schedule.
And you talked a little bit about the Blocks One threat defense and how, again, today in the environment we're working in, work from home, people don't really have to be on the internal network to be protected by the Infoblox solution the same way that they would if they were on the network. So you want to kind of talk a little bit about how people can actually leverage the policies that they have within their on-prem Infoblox system to be able to extend those out to the Blocks One defense.
Yeah, sure. So that, the ability to do, like I mentioned, everything reputational list to focus on signatures, and then to go with 0-day protection. It can be done again within our servers, immediately within the data center, or the client that actually is working. It's a very thin client that works on the PC. Just takes the DNS protocol and it encrypts it into a TLS packet, what's referred to as DOT, DNS over TLS. And we take that up to our cloud, and then we perform those heavily analytics that are actually occurring, in the cloud against every single DNS query that is going out to the internet. And there's a lot of good things about this. For one thing, it protects the specific IP address of the client or the network from the customer's environment, because going through our cloud, we're basically masking that connectivity, because we're proxying all that information through our resolvers, our resolver system in that cloud, and then providing query protection every query. There's also a lot more processing that you can do in the cloud that you can't do in a server that's sitting on the network, or obviously not in your PC. So we've extended beyond the 0-day. We now are including detection of things called lookalikes. This has become a very popular method to try to use what they call the IDN, or the international coding, what they call puny coding, also that allows a specific character that may look like an I, but it's actually a Greek character or some other language character, that actually looks and fools the individual to thinking that when they're connecting to a good site like Google, or and that O is not really the O, is actually making them connect to a bad domain. And we want to be able to produce all the variables for a lookalike, and tell customers that they have some look-alike possibilities, being connected within their network.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. I mean, even myself, I have to actually look at emails very closely these days, just to make sure that it's legit and it's basically something that they're not trying to phish me. Jim, we talked about this earlier. You have a video that you created, and it shows a little bit about the Infoblox ecosystem and how it's actually working with a SOAR solution to help the spread of malware throughout the network. Do you want to kind of set that up for us and tell us a little bit about the video before we play it?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we do a lot in the area of detecting DNS domains and zero-day situations in what we call north-south, going from a PC out to the internet or from a server out into the internet. What I wanted to do with this particular video or demo was to say, how can DDI enhance, enrich a SOAR solution in a specific environment where we're not doing the detection? In other words, an infection has already happened in a network, and there's lateral movement of that malware going on, kind of like that east-west activity, and has to get picked up by some other security system. So what this particular demo does is it shows an infected client that actually has malware running east-west and is getting picked up by a honeypot. In this case, that honeypot is a product called TrapX, and the TrapX sends an alert of being detecting the malware that's been detected, that's been picked up by it, and it notifies the SIM, which is Splunk, and then kicks off the SOAR product, which is Phantom, to do notification so that the SecOps team can run a playbook. And the playbook's going to essentially run through a coordination to determine if there is a broader scope of infection of this malware within a network. And this is where DDI actually really comes into play. Because remember, we said, if you don't know what's in your network, you can't fix it. And if you don't, you can't protect it. So we can provide a lot of information to SOAR to tell them what the specific domain maybe for that infected client was going to, and then go and investigate where there are other types of hosts that may be trying to connect or have connected to that domain that we blocked on. And this can give an organization the visibility to see how broad the infection is.
Okay, well, great. Let's take a look at it right now.
Let's take a look at an Infoblox specific ecosystem integration with a product called SOAR. Why should you care about SOAR? SOAR is an acronym for Security, Orchestration, Automation, Remediation. It's a software stack that actually helps organizations that are struggling in today's environment with a staff shortage of security engineers, an overabundance of incidents of compromise that are hitting on a daily basis. So an alert triage to get the quality and speed out of the system that would help then reduce the time to respond, contain, and remediate, and provide a central view of a number of security systems into one particular solution. Now, SOAR does provide service improvements with combined data sets for across these security solutions, such as firewalls and DLPs and products such as Infoblox's Block Swan Threat Defense DNS protection system. Platform operational efficiencies are there to help save time and money, and they're easily integrated with current tool sets such as a RESTful API. So how can Infoblox help empower SOAR? Our DNS, DHCP, and IP address management solution, or DDI, can trigger, enforce, and enrich a SOAR solution. We can trigger on a number of events such as DNS events, behaviors of DNS compromises. We can match intels within our database within Blocks One. And then we also can discover new hosts that come on a network, which is very valuable to know if there's possibly maybe a rogue AP or a static IP device that was not administered. And this way we can then trigger external systems such as NAC products or firewalls to block access for those host systems. We also can discover new networks that are created and then be able to scan those networks for any devices that are on them. And we can look at specific DHCP lease windows to determine within that window if there was a compromise that was triggered. We also have the ability to enforce with Blocks One that threat defense. So we have DNS remediation lists, we have the ability to look at signatures, we have zero-day analytics that looks at the behavior of DNS, and we can either redirect them to a captive portal or a HTTPS proxy, for example, or a honeypot. We also have the ability to block DNS. We can block with leases of DHCP that come on the network. And as I said, we can actually block and enforce through ecosystem integrations with firewalls, NAC products, and SOAR. How do we enrich SOAR? We have an immense history of the network as being internally and understanding what is going on with DNS behavior and all the IP addresses. We have a great history on that IP address management database. The inventory, we know what a specific IP is on a specific port of a specific switch that we can report, and include the actual user Active Directory name in most examples. We have threat research through our dossier product so that you can research a incident, and we'll show that in a demonstration here. And then we can tell you the device type, the true IP address, source IP address, even though we're doing this in the cloud. And we can also help with lateral connections where malware has already infected the network. Let's take a look at some of the ways that Blocks One Threat Defense actually helps in a number of different scenarios. If we take a generic company that has no Infoblox and still wants to get DNS protection, we can forward all DNS queries out to the internet up to our Anycast address, where we can perform the detection of bad domains, signatures, and the DNS behavior through analytics. We also, if you leave the enterprise, we have an endpoint agent that can sit on Windows systems and Apple iOS systems to be able to block bad domain connections at the cloud. If there's a small office and we have a number of IP addresses, we can actually put a small container or let's say an OVA on a VMware hypervisor such as ESX that can actually then forward all the queries up to the cloud for protection. We can also do that on a smaller branch basis through our Blocks One Threat Defense proxy, and also if we are having some branches that are actually using our DDI product for the enterprise, which we call NIOS, we can actually block actually in the data center of that particular branch, or in the headquarters environment, we can block via NIOS right at the DNS server. Let's say, how can we actually help if there's an infection in the network? Let's say if there's actual lateral movement going on. We've actually created a demonstration to see how Infoblox can help where malware has already invaded the network and it's doing lateral movement, but we want to enrich the SOAR with whatever DDI data and DNS data we can get from Blocks One Threat Defense to help speed remediation. So what we've done is we created a demonstration with this particular workflow. What we have here is we have an infected client, Ubuntu server, which is 1910 Infoblox, and it has got an IP address 192.168.24.199. We also have a work-from-home computer, which is our desktop Windows 10 machine, which is VT5P2QT, and this has an IP address on its own private network, which is 208.50.179.24. These particular IP addresses are very important because they're going to pop into the displays to tell us exactly what's happening. We also have a TrapX system to detect lateral movement of malware that's being triggered by a program on the Ubuntu server. That attack is then picked up. It is then therefore alerted to Splunk as an event, and Splunk alerts Phantom, which is our SOAR product, to do the correlation and enhancements that are necessary to interface with Infoblox's on-premise NIOS product to pull DDI data, to correlate private IP address and threat data and other malicious domains that are, again, as we showed on the previous page, being collected and triggered at our Blox One Threat Defense Cloud. And we have a Docker container or what we call a DHCP forwarding proxies to forward our DNS queries that would come in the data center from, let's say, this Ubuntu server up to the cloud, so that the cloud becomes the central collection point for all DNS detection. Let's take a look at the workflow of how this particular demo will run so we can see how Infoblox helps in the SOAR environment. So Splunk picks up the alert. So TrapX malware sees that there is a lateral movement of malware, and it then therefore alerts Phantom with the time, the source IP, and the description, which came from the Splunk SIM. Now what happens is Phantom needs to enhance the data in its automatic workbook. So what we want to do is we want to query the NIOS using the RESTful API for DDI data of that source IP. And what comes back from NIOS is the actual name of the system, the fingerprint, and its MAC address, plus a DHCP lease window. So we know exactly how long this particular PC has been on network, and we can actually search within that parameter. So Phantom does some correlation through the workflow process. What it does is it queries Splunk for malicious domains accessed by that source IP during that lease window. Now, Splunk has been getting all the DNS hits from our Blox One Threat Defense through our cloud service portal. And those events are being collected in Splunk that then tells during that time period any domains that are hit against the system. Now, what returns is a list of high critical domains that are accessed by the source IP with the category, the severity, and the threat class. So now Phantom needs to decide how serious this problem is. Is it one host, or is it two or three, or a very large number of hosts that are infected? So what we want to do is have now Phantom query CSP API for any machines accessing those same malicious domains. And what comes back is the source IP system name, fingerprint, and any private IP addresses like work from home, for example, and that DHCP release window if it happens to be within the data center. We want to enhance our solution. So what we want to do is now have Phantom query NIOS API for DDI data for that private IP address if it's, let's say, in the data center, and it will turn specific data that it knows about that IP address, that system name, fingerprint, MAC address, or DHCP lease window. Now to record and escalate this, Phantom will then open a ticket with ServiceNow and populate that ticket with the domains, the system, internal IP, the MAC, the fingerprint, and any suspected lateral movement that's going on. All right, let's take a look at this demo. So I'm logging into a demonstration cloud that we've created at Infoblox to be able to show you how lateral movement is actually enhanced with Infoblox's data. So as you can see, we've got a number of servers on various networks fired up in our lab. We have our specific solutions here, which are the TrapX, the Phantom Splunk systems, our Windows, our Ubuntu server. And for managing and showing this demo, I have a Windows gateway that then allows me to look at the various different windows to show you this demo. So let's start off by how that workflow worked, where we actually got the alert from Splunk to the Phantom system. So as you can see here, we have some alerts that have come in from the TrapX. So we can go look specific at those events. And you can see we have a specific number of events that are coming in. The demo has got TrapX kicking off a lateral movement about every 15 minutes. So I'll just take the top one here to investigate. And you can see that it's showing as a high critical alert. And what we can do is we now can run a playbook to get specific detailed information. So that the playbooks that are available under Phantom have one that was developed with a partner of mine called Defend. And Defend did the actual Splunk integration for this workbook. So again, the workflow here, as we saw in the details on the PowerPoint, was now Infoblox will get system information from NIOS. The ticket will be open in ServiceNow. Then Phantom's going to query for domains within that lease window, and then display those domains, and then update the ticket. It'll then also get any CSP data for any other systems that were queried for those DNS domains within the window. And then we'll update the ticket and close it. So let's take a look at how this playbook runs. So I hit playbooks, and I go down here to the bottom where I see the Defend Infoblox workflow. I select that, I run that playbook. Now what you'll see here on the bottom left is the playbook running, where it will get system information, create the ticket, run the query of Splunk, update the ticket, and then it went and got additional data from CSP and updated that ticket. Now you can see we're populating the actual events that were created by this workflow. Here we got system information for the infected device that was detected by TrapX. That is the Ubuntu server. That was the 192.168.24.199 address that I pointed out. Here is the actual API request to look for domains within a specific lease window. Because remember, that server is in the data center, so we're giving DHCP to that, and we can look at that lease window. Here we open up a ticket with ServiceNow. I'll copy that ticket number while I'm looking at it, and you can see it's actually created information, that ticket number related to the 192.168.24.199 address. Now it queried Splunk for domains within that lease window, and you can see what it found is it found curtisgroup-inc.com and totalupdate.com as the 192.168. It also found that there was a work from home computer, which on a private IP was on 208.50.1.179. And that also came in with totalupdate.com and curtisgroup.com. So what we can do is we can go over to ServiceNow, and we can go to this particular screen, which is show all open tickets. I can search on a ticket number. I can paste my ticket number in that I copied, and I can hit return, and I should see this particular ticket is open. I can open up the ticket, and it should be populated with the information that we created through the workflow. So we go down into the ticket detail information. What we can see here is we have the two domains that were detected within that lease window: curtisgroup-inc.com, total-update.com. The attack address was 192.168.24.199. It is a Ubuntu 1910 Infoblox server that actually kicked off the TrapX alert. And then we also have information about its MAC address. We also, as we can see, we moved down into the ticket information that there's a high probability that this private IP address 208.50.179.24 accessed a domain within that same lease window, so it has a possible infection. Now, to investigate these particular these domains to see how bad they were, we have access into our Blox1 Threat Defense Cloud. And with our cloud is we can actually look at the reports for security activity. And we can actually see that that if we filter this to high threats within the threat level, that we actually have the detection of the Curtis group-inc.com and the total-update.com. And you can see these are high. We can see also that they were malware downloads or malware command and control, and that they came in from specific IP addresses such as 208.50.179.24, which is a work from home Blocks 1 endpoint on a Windows machine. And we have things will come in through, as we go down the list, we can see they can come in from to the Ubuntu server, which is the 199.168 address also right here. So we continue over. You can see that the actual user device name is noted, Ubuntu 1910 Infoblox, and also the desktop unit. I can actually then go in here and I could click on this particular domain to go into a dossier, and dossier will open up the threat information I can use for investigation. And you can see under curtisgroup-inc.com, it has a serious count of 9 URLs that are suspect. This is classified as anti-malware. And I can go and look at these URLs by just clicking on the related URLs, and we can see that this is malware analysis. So these are some of the tools and integrations that are available using Infoblox's DDI product within a SOAR environment.
All right, Jim, that was a great video. Thanks again for sharing that with us. It shows really the power of the Infoblox ecosystem and how it can integrate with SOAR solutions to kick off playbooks to help prevent some of these things from propagating throughout the network. And again, we're coming up on our time today. Thank you again for joining us. I appreciate it. Anybody that's interested in learning more about the Infoblox solution, please feel free to give us a ring or email us at Sinnott Wolach Technology Group. Jim, thanks again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff, and be safe.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you everyone for watching. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar. Check out our YouTube channel for previous Let's Talk Security broadcasts. Just go to youtube.com and search for Sinnott Wolach Technology Group. This episode is sponsored by Infoblox, Next Level Networking, and produced by Events by Drew Productions. Let's Talk Security is brought to you by Sinnott Wolach Technology Group, a leading provider of next-generation network and information security solutions and services.